welcome viewers. I am Pia and you're watching NewsX World as we continue our special coverage of the SCO Summit in Tianjin in China. Yes, the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is now well underway in Tianjin. It's drawn leaders from over 24 countries that are going to deliberate on key global issues. We're now learning that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to speak at the opening session of the SCO leaders very shortly. You can see there on your screens he's interacting with Russian President Vladimir Putin as well as Chinese President Xi Jinping. The three leaders are seeming to share a very candid conversation. This of course comes as these leaders of three of the four most powerful nations across the world are now gathering, even as Donald Trump's tariff troubles continue to mount. It seems that Xi Jinping is speaking at the opening session. Earlier, of course, he'd hosted a banquet in the evening to welcome world leaders attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit.
上海合作组织自成立以来，始终秉持上海精神，巩固团结互信，深化务实合作，参与。
The banquet was held at the Meijiang Convention and Exhibition Center. It was attended by over 20 heads of state and government along with representatives of international organizations. We do know the SCO was founded in 2001. It expanded into a large platform. Now leaders from across 24 nations are gathered in Tianjin. China, Russia, India, representing nearly half the world's population and quarter of the global economy as well. We of course see all these leaders gathering. These are live visuals that we're tracking from the ground in Tianjin. We'll get my colleague and our senior executive editor Megha Sharma very soon. But in the meantime, you can clearly see Vladimir Putin. He's there with his foreign minister Sergei Lavrov as well. Several other leaders, including Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who held a bilateral meeting with Xi Jinping earlier in the day. Before that, we'd seen a slew of bilateral meetings held on the sidelines yesterday as well. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Chinese President Xi Jinping. That was quite a moment because it signaled a thaw in relations between these two Asian rivals. They're looking at enhancing economic ties. In particular, there you can see a visual of Indian Prime Minister Modi speaking to Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the summit as well. They are slated to hold a bilateral meeting today after the leaders' session concludes. Meanwhile, it remains to be seen whether a joint declaration will be signed by all countries or not. But speaking about other bilaterals, I had earlier mentioned that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had met with Xi Jinping earlier in the day. They had discussed the Middle Corridor as well as the Belt and Road Initiative and other regional and global issues. And during the meeting, Erdogan stated that it is important to take joint steps to harmonize the Middle Corridor and the Belt and Road Initiative. And during the meeting, it was agreed that the existing consultation and cooperation mechanisms between Turkey and China would be operated at regular levels. This is of course what has happened earlier in the day, and in the meantime there are statements coming in from Trump's trade advisor Peter Navarro. He has stated that Indians are profiteering by buying Russian oil. This is even as the SCO summit is underway, and it seems that India and China are now improving their relations. The United States has chimed in. Peter Navarro, Trump's trade advisor, has come in, has doubled down on his statements that he's been making earlier. He, of course, called Russia's war with Ukraine Modi's war. In the meantime, we'll try to go live and take a look at what's happening on the ground.
上海合作组织已经成长为26国参与。 在50多个领域开展合作，经济总量接近30万亿美元的世界最大区域组织，国际影响力和感召力日益增强。回首来路，尽管乱云飞渡，我们践行上海精神而取得成功。展望未来，世界动荡变革，我们仍需遵循上海精神，脚踏实地，砥砺奋进，更好发挥组织功能。一是坚持求同存异，志同道合是力量，是优势；求同存异是胸怀，是智慧。上海合作组织成员国都是朋友和伙伴，要尊重彼此差异，保持战略沟通，凝聚集体共识，加强团结协作，把合作盘子做大，把各国禀赋用好，把促进本地区和平稳定和发展繁荣的责任共同扛在肩上。二是坚持互利共赢，深化发展战略对接，高质量共建“一带一路”，在共商共建共享中增强地区发展动能，增进人民福祉，利用超大规模市场优势和各成员国经济互补优势，提升贸易和投资便利化水平，加强能源、基础设施。
All right, viewers, there you've heard Chinese President Xi Jinping. He is delivering his opening remarks at the SCO Summit, the leaders' meeting that is taking place. He has stated that SCO has made important contributions to upholding regional security. It has set a model for a new type of international relations. The world situation is fluid and chaotic, and he's emphasized that China will work with all parties to take SCO to a new stage. He stated that it's important to build a closer SCO community and that China will work with all parties to draw a blueprint for high-quality development. He stated that members brought about groundbreaking and historic achievements in the development of SCO, and that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has turned borders into bonds of friendship and mutual trust. Xi Jinping has also gone on to state that SCO is unequivocally opposed to external interference. China's trade with SCO countries has surpassed $2.3 trillion, and that China's cumulative trade with SCO countries stands at this figure, as they were the first to launch the Belt and Road Cooperation Initiative. He has stated that the SCO will promote true multilateralism and will stand on the side of international fairness and justice, that they will oppose hegemonism and power politics, constructively participate in international affairs, and will also enhance cooperation in energy, infrastructure, AI, science, technology, and that there is a need to leverage mega-sized market strength, improve trade and investment. Xi Jinping has also stated that it's important to promote the BRI initiative, and they need to better align development strategies in order to promote and ensure that more economic cooperation takes place. Last but not the least, he's also stated that they must promote correct historical perspective of the Second World War. We do know that the Grand Parade is scheduled to take place on the 3rd of September in Beijing. Several of the leaders who are already gathered at the SCO Summit, including Vladimir Putin, will be attending this. Meanwhile, joining us on the broadcast are a host of special guests. We have with us Walter Anderson, a political analyst joining us from Washington, D.C. in the United States. We have with us Major General Rajan Kochar, a senior strategic and defense expert joining us from New Delhi. We also have with us Mr. John Rosamando, president of Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst from Washington, D.C. I'd like to go across to Mr. Walter Anderson. Interesting visuals coming in from Tianjin. We'd seen yesterday that Xi Jinping engaged in a conversation with Vladimir Putin, even as other leaders were lining up to take a photograph, the family photograph at the dinner. They had quite the conversation. He called his personal interpreter as well. That's not all. Today morning, we've seen fresh visuals come in of Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi. All three leaders engaged in a candid conversation ahead of this leaders meeting that is now underway. What do you make of the optics of this, and what sort of signal is Xi trying to send particularly to Western countries?
Well, the optics so far have been good. The Chinese have, put on a very good show in terms of welcoming the leaders and those sorts of things and the initial meetings that they've held. Obviously, the optics of this is to a certain extent geared toward President Trump and the U.S. And that, particularly for India and China, is that they are not isolated in the world, that they do have room for maneuver. But saying that, there are internal contradictions among the members. For example, India is a member of the Quad, which has, as you know, a certain China element to it. Even though it was originally set up as a primarily economic organization, it has taken some strategic elements to it as well. In fact, there's supposed to be a Quad meeting in the not too distant future. The other element contradiction that comes to mind is China's relationship with Pakistan, where the Chinese have tended to take a very sympathetic view in many ways to what Pakistan is doing. And this has aroused a lot of controversy in India. So I think we'll see. I think that anything that comes out of this is likely to be economics oriented and not strategic because of the internal, as I just mentioned, just two of them, many more of the strategic issues that are within it, within the membership and the participants at the SCO. So they're likely to be, in fact, some steps have already been taken positive. For example, China has announced it's going to allow Hindu pilgrims again to go to some of the sites in Tibet. And then direct flights are going to be reinstituted again between India and China because they've been canceled for the last few years. And the very fact that Prime Minister Modi is in India is a sign. He hasn't been in China for about 7 years, and then came the dust-up in 2020 when the relationship became very tense. But the two sides have maintained significant militaries on the borders, so they're being cautious. And I think, if you look at it from the Indian perspective, the Indian foreign policy has long taken a very cautious approach to foreign policy issues. And I think that's the case here. You're not likely to see any significant strategic development, in my view, coming out of this. You may see some movement on economics that will happen.
Indeed, as Mr. Anderson has rightly pointed out, we have seen a lot of military build-up take place along the border in both India and China. We've seen China continue to occupy Aksai Chin and also claim territory within sovereign villages within sovereign territory of India. They've renamed some villages in Arunachal Pradesh as well. Speaking about the economics, I'd like to rope in Mr. John Rosamando into this conversation. We'd seen, in fact, yesterday, the Brazilian President Lula da Silva called for an extraordinary summit of the BRICS. That's not all. India is in fact holding the presidency of the BRICS next year. It has extended an invitation to the Chinese president. The Chinese president has backed India's presidency. But that's not the only thing about BRICS that has occurred recently. We've seen even French President Emmanuel Macron, who had a conversation with Narendra Modi a while back via the phone line, also extend his support for India's presidency of the BRICS next year. Now, France is a NATO ally. What do you make of this piece of news that had come in?
Who are you talking to?
Mr. Rosamondo. I believe we've lost that connection. We will try to get that fixed and sorted. Meanwhile, we have with us Dr. Rajan Kochar. Sir, I'd like to rope you into the conversation. We've, of course, spoken about the economics angle, and I'd asked about BRICS in particular. We've seen Brazilian President Lula da Silva calling for an extraordinary session of the BRICS. Narendra Modi extending an invite to Xi Jinping, considering the fact that India will be holding the BRICS presidency. Emmanuel Macron, a while ago, had also supported India over the BRICS. Interestingly, France is a NATO ally. What do you make of this? All right, it seems there's a connection with our Zoom. We'll try to get that sorted. Let's dip into what's happening in Tianjin.
和能力建设，让组织机制更完善，决策更科学，行动更高效，尽快启用应对安全威胁与挑战综合中心和禁毒中心，尽快建成上海合作组织开发银行，为成员国安全和经济合作提供更有力支撑。各位同事，中国始终将自身发展同上海合作。
Serious problem upstairs with our PR crew. I believe we have Major General Rajan Kochar back with us on the broadcast. Sir, I was asking you about the BRICS summit. In the meantime, we'd seen, even though the SCO is underway, we've seen a lot of statements come in, whether from Vladimir Putin, whether from the Brazilian President Lula da Silva. They've highlighted the importance of BRICS in today's age. We've seen Narendra Modi extend an invite to Chinese President Xi Jinping. Emmanuel Macron has also backed India's 2026 presidency of the BRICS. Interestingly, France is a NATO ally. What do you make of this?
It's a very interesting development. You see these regional multilateral organizations which are actually coming up, in spite of the United Nations being there, is a sign that firstly that UN is not that relevant, that effective, and secondly that BRICS, and if you see the alliances like BRICS and SCO, they constitute more than half the world's population and more than 45% of the GDP of the entire world. So they have a very strong voice, and especially the global south. What we were seeing, there was a neglect of the global south, and now these organizations are giving a push to that a kind of an agenda where the global south needs to be strengthened. Second important aspect is that why BRICS is becoming relevant is because of the hegemony of the United States and the Western nations, which has to be broken. And within the NATO also, as you rightly said just now, there are fissures, there are differences, because the way NATO's concept was relevant to World War II. Today, there is no concept in the world called collective security. The concept is you have to secure each nation economically. the times have gone by where the focus has to was on wars and territory. Today, the focus is more on economics and exchange mechanisms, and therefore, I feel why BRICS is becoming more and more relevant, and the G7 and all these alliances are weakening. And if you have a look at the growth rate of the nations also, today, the latest estimate is India is growing at 7.8%. China is growing at 5%. The United States is just 3.4%. So you have to take all these factors into account and see how relevant nations are becoming today. And there was a talk in the last BRIC summit about having their own currency, their own exchange mechanisms leading to de-dollarization, because this challenge to the dollar has been a very, very great, impactful sort of a decision, though so far India has not been party to it. But as I see things happening, and especially after this tariff war, which has been started by Donald Trump, it's going to backfire on the United States, because he may have achieved a short term impact. But if you go in for a long term impact, you cannot annoy your friends, your allies, the people who have stood by you all these times by imposing such high tariffs, and there is no consistency in his policy. There is no rationale why a particular country has been levied 30%, the other has been levied 15%, the other has been levied 50%. So it's all on your own whims and fancies. There is no uniform parameter which has been taken into account when you are working out these tariffs. So I think this entire world, I see a churning taking place. I see there is a desire for nations to get together with like-minded countries, and that is why a French president is making such statements, and the way you treat them, when they come to your White House and you behave like a schoolmaster, I don't think that is the kind of a situation nations would actually. They need people need respect, because everybody is a president of his own country. I uh, I will uh, take you back to a couple of months, the way Zelensky was treated in the White House, uh, like a schoolmaster, you addressing one of his students. So that's not the way you deal with foreign policy. And my last point is, foreign policy has to be handled by experts. What we are seeing in the case of Donald Trump is that you make your golfing partner, who's a businessman, Steve Witkoff, as the one of the entire Middle East policies he's handling. You have to have trained people. You have to have seasoned diplomats who have had experience of handling such issues to deal with these kind of a things. So I think that there is a lot of things happening, and we welcome uh, the presidency of India next year into BRICS now, because India is a very, very relevant country today in the entire world, the fourth largest economy in the world, coming to become the third largest economy in the world. There is a great amount of market available in India, the great amount of talent available in India. So I think we are looking at a situation, as far as BRICS is concerned, we are looking at a win-win situation where all countries are going to get together, support each other in all the issues which you are facing, because instead of the concept of a collective security, I think the concept of collective brotherhood is more relevant in the present times.
I'd like to rope in Mr. John Rosamondo into the discussion. Thank you, sir, for joining. I, of course, tried to come to you earlier. There seemed to be a network issue at your end. Xi Jinping has referred to the BRI in his opening remarks. He's also referred to the fact that the SCO as an important forum to counter hegemony, Western hegemony in particular. He's used these terms. Now, there are concerns, especially regarding China's BRI policy. Of course, China is quite ambitious at this point, wanting to replace the US as a hegemon of its own. But there are concerns about debt traps that are coming up. So in light of this, we've seen examples in Sri Lanka, where China has taken over the Hambantota port for 99 years. We've seen the project not make too much headway in Nepal, or even Pakistan for that matter, the CPEC corridor. So in light of all of this, where do you see the BRI project headed in the next decade or so?
Well, I see China looking to continue to expand the Belt and Road Initiative, to make the world, Sino-centric, to make everything surrounding around, China. I think that in the long run, because India has its own interests, that the Belt and Road Initiative and India's interests will end up coming into conflict, because there's no way India wants to be, subject to China.
Indeed. We're tracking the latest. We're now, in fact, learning that Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has already spoken at the summit. We are also now learning that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also currently speaking at the SCO leaders meeting, I beg your pardon. Meanwhile, we're learning that Russian President Vladimir Putin met Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan on the side